hero.
Have you any hobbies?
My hobbies are fast cars and fast women.
Hobbies are healthy. They teach you things.
Are you ready? Are you ready?
Welcome back, everybody. It's Monday night. That means it's time for Around the UFL. And boy, it's a big week. The season's over. The regular season's over, that is. I can't believe we're here. We always talk about it every year. It's going to be here before you know it. But then when it happens, you're like, man, how did it get here so quickly? And here's where we are. But we still have playoffs ahead of us. And, of course, we have the championship, which, of course, leads us to summer stock. We have guests this week. Who do we got this week, James? It escapes me now. Hold on. Let me pull up the tweet. We were just talking about this. I know, because you were just, anyway, I won't go into this. It was just like a brain fart. That's no disrespect. I'm just, hey, you know what? I'm off for 2 weeks and then, I don't know, I'm rusty.
Look, we get it. The Roughnecks aren't playing anymore. You're going through some withdrawal right now. I get it.
He's also off the high of finally getting a win in a meaningless game and our little competition.
Meaningless. That was Ref's Law of the Game Part 2, and I'll tell you, we came out 50-50, as it should. All right.
I mean, I'll at least give you that for us putting a QB3 in for 2.5 quarters. But you know what? That's all good. No worries. I'll let you have
this. You couldn't beat us with QB1. You couldn't beat us with... Anyway, we're not going to go there yet. Anyway, of course, we have Jaydon Mickens. We have Jace joining us, of course, to look at the final power rankings of the season. But before we get into kind of some of the news, because we have the All-UFL team, we have a few things to discuss. Let's go around the panel. Zachy boy, I was talking about it before we jumped on. We're getting closer and closer and closer to our big road trip. Of course, if you guys don't know, you should tune in to Summer Stock, the road to the UFL Championship, which, of course, Zach and I are going to be recording when he lands, starting the 12th, and then it's going to go out, I don't know, the 15th or the 16th at the latest. How you doing this week?
I'm doing good. I'll reshare my little anecdote when I came on with you to get set up. I thought it was this week in my head, so I'm thinking vacation back in Indiana. I get a week of work. I'm back on the road. I come back from Indiana. I go like, oh no, it's an extra week. I have to be disappointed for a second. So don't worry. I'll trod through another week here, and we'll get to the other side. But it'll be just a little bit sweeter. So, and we got plenty of great destinations. One of them you added your folks had it on.
Yeah.
Oklahoma burger place that I am thrilled to go check out. So
I can't even
more
remember the
fun.
name of it, but it's an onion burger. You know what? We should ask. Jace is from Oklahoma, right? He'll know about this. We'll ask him when he gets on this damn show. He might tell you what are you guys talking about with this onion burger?
Exactly what he's gonna say.
I'll save it, but yeah, feel free in the chat to let us know, and we'll still ask him either way if you even know which one we're talking. But yeah, good times ahead. I'm thrilled.
Hell yeah, Mr. James, how you doing? Big weekend behind us, but big week ahead of us. How you holding up?
You know, I've got mixed feelings. I'm really excited for the playoffs, but as you said, kind of sad that the season's coming to an end. I'm like, what do I even have to live for anymore? You mean I can't cover the 1-6 Memphis Showboats and 1-6 San Antonio Bravos going at it anymore? Like, I live for that stuff. So I'm excited for the playoffs, though. It's going to be fun. And yeah, James Baker, you're right. Holden Aller's New York Knicks. His whole story. I think we got the new Cardell Jones storyline where Cardell Jones and Sonic and the Knicks get eliminated from the playoffs, and Holton Ahlers turns the ball over a couple times, and I don't know, 5 snaps, negative 10 yards, and a couple turnovers. That was rough.
It's a shame. It's a damn shame.
We need a new graphic. That someone has that Cardell Jones graphic somewhere. Thorne, I think, has it, but he's not on the show today.
Oh man.
Of course, this would be the week. Of course, this would be it. Mr. Ducky, I know you're not feeling too good. I'm not feeling great either after looking at those All-UFL teams, but I at least got one ahead of you. How you hold it up?
I don't get how they can have 0 Showboats players. Like the biggest one for me is Isaiah Henney. I don't get how he wasn't
the absolute shutout on that.
I don't understand how he wasn't on there. There's a couple guys, like James on his tweet said, there's a couple Showboats that should have been
Steel
on there.
Chambers, you can make an argument for. I know he didn't play as much down the stretch of the season, but he had a really good year and showed a lot of growth at linebacker. Jonathan Adams, I think the problem for him is that he just kind of fell off the final few weeks. I mean, he was really productive the first half of the season, just didn't get as much. But a lot of that goes into the fact that Jim Turner played 3 different quarterbacks the last 4 games with Dresser, Troy, EJ, and then Dresser again. So it's tough. And he missed all of week 9. The first snap or 2, he went down with a hamstring injury. So those are tough. And I got to give a shout out to Matt Mangle because that guy was an absolute tank this year. Some of the best punts in the whole league, and he had 5 of them blocked. I mean, absolutely piss poor protection on that end for Matt. I feel really bad because his numbers are not even close to what they should have been had they actually properly protected for him. So hopefully next year Memphis can get that sorted out. But yeah, as a whole, Eli Walker too is another guy at safety I thought would be a potential landing spot. But I think the problem is the league, and some of the people that make the decisions, they're just looking purely at the stats and not the impact of these players. And Arnold Tarpley, you see, he has 2 picks. Eli's got 1. Walker did drop an interception in week 9. Luis Perez basically gifted an interception and he dropped it. I feel like if he makes that pick, he's probably on that list. So it's a couple times that Eli's been kind of snubbed from an All-UFL, All-UFL list because he had a case for All-UFL back in 2023 as well.
Yeah, tough calls across the list. Honestly, I think for one, the most common ones I've heard complained, and I'll go maybe, and I imagine Stefan was going to jump this too, is Justin Hall. I've heard a lot of complaints about being left, but credit receivers so competitive. I mean, you're going to be splitting hairs with some of these guys that they have here. But it's the fact it's been 2 years in a row that people have felt like he's been really good. It's just been not on a roster as much optics as the other guys that are getting these, because Vaughn's is in the public eye a lot. So is Roland and Deion Kane, but Justin's doing a ton of great work. Just isn't getting as much of the praise as these guys.
Back-to-back years that he had a case and doesn't get on. And at wide receiver, it's tough because you only have 3 slots. But to my thinking is, okay, we have 2 tight ends this year. Like, why didn't we just put receivers at 4? I mean, I don't know exactly how all that works. But like last year, they only had 1 All-UFL tight end. This year, they had 2. Where did that come from? And it went to Gunnar Oaks, who, look, Gunnar Oaks is a good tight end. He's made some good plays for Michigan this year. Briley Moore and Jay Sternberger definitely have arguments to be tight end 2 on that list over Gunnar Oaks. That one was a little surprising. There were some surprising Panthers on there, to be honest.
I think you're hitting at something that needs to happen that we brought up last year is, I think at some point, I know it's an 8-team league, but if you expand next year, like it's all the talk and the rumor is, do you not go to a second team for an odds? I mean, that's something I'm curious about because like we have people that are getting, it's almost I think every position now we have that you can argue there's common snubs across the board. It's not just one or two pick off. I mean, we're getting to that point soon where we're going to have enough players where you can make a second team soon enough. Because I'll tell you, one of them and this is the one that got the most coverage actually, by the way. And I don't usually listen to Mike Florio, but I kind of agree with him in this sake. And it's weird for me to argue against my own guy, but I don't know if I would have put Bryce Perkins at quarterback. You got to put Jordan Teamu there. I know that Bryce is the most exciting player that the league has, but the fact that the conclusion was that Bryce was the de facto all-UFL QB, I just can't put my stamp on it, even as a Panthers fan. I got to put Jordan, and the argument made sense. He'd been out the last few games. He split reps with Danny Etling for a good chunk of the first third of the year. Exciting plays. You could argue most exciting player, but like all the stats, all the numbers, they all point towards Jordan Teamu, and especially the success as well. I just don't agree with that choice. I hate to say it for my guy, but that's
what is Bryce Perkins' completion percentage?
That's one. I mean, yes, you can talk the completion percentage. That's fine, but all these other categories, all the explosive plays Jordan has left off in the field as well. And we question him being the possible issue with that offense, given that we were leaning on Abram Smith. Teamu was actually the catalyst for the offense this year. He flipped the script. He changed the narrative. That's a huge snub to me.
Ducky, isn't it amazing? Fans of the Panthers, they are the first to throw their players under the bus. If this was the show, if this is the Showboats, or if this is the Roughnecks getting the all-UFL quarterback, would we be like, hell yeah, he deserved it? What are you talking about? There's no
I'd say it's not enough.
Yeah.
I think
like
Zach
you throwing
makes
my
a
narrative
fair
in the
point.
trash for the sake of rivalry.
I'm sorry, Zach, I know. I came in with, there wasn't even an argument. That was just shade. I might as well open a blind. Anyway, go on.
No, I think Zach makes a valid point, because when you look at other leagues and the way they operate, right, with the NBA, and they have like a 65 game limit where you can only make it to certain lists or be eligible for All-Star or this or that. I think is 65 game, or you have to play at least 60 or something like that. But anywho, for Bryce to split so many reps with Danny the first few games and then to miss the final 3 games entirely, it's like I see the argument as to why Jordan, he has a better stats. Look, I think if you go head-to-head and you look at them in the games that they were active for, Bryce probably is a slightly better quarterback. I mean, he makes a little bit more of an impact. Yes. I think he is the more dynamic player. But if we're going by the standard of, hey, Jordan Teamu played in 9 games and was there the whole season, Bryce wasn't there the whole season, Tiamu's got the better numbers because of that fact, and that's why I think he deserves the nod. But on the flip side, what I think could be happening here is we're seeing Bryce get all UFL honors and Jordan ends up winning MVP. That's my guess, and a lot of the same voters for both of those awards. So you wonder if some people that were torn were like, hey, I'm putting Jordan at MVP. I'm going to put Bryce at all-UFL, and that way they both get something. So
I see UFL Isaac arguing in the chat too. But my counter to that is this: if you're voted all UFL in the position, that means you were the best possible spot at that position all year, without question. And I think if you're going to give someone MVP but not an all UFL or all team mark, I feel it's like half a slap in the face. I think you really should do all or nothing there. If you're an MVP and at a position like that, you should be labeled as an all UFL too, which is kind of why I cry a little louder, say, hey, with expanded, maybe now is the time to do 2 all UFL teams, a first and a second team, just like any other professional league does, because this is where I don't like it, where we have way too many snubs this year that I think were left out because it's, I think that's just too small of a viewing angle at some of the talents and that are being left out on this list. Or it comes down to thin decisions on votes that we've seen 2 straight years that I think have valid arguments for being put in.
Or just picking guys that are on winning teams rather than looking at the numbers and the stats and the film. And I think that's what we've seen. And another thing, too, is certain guys probably got snubbed because they weren't even able to be voted on. Because the way the league works is where, for example, in the linebacker category, I think there was 5 or 6 linebackers that people at the top chose and then sent those out to the players and coaches immediately to vote on. So there's guys that weren't even given the opportunity to be voted on that probably could have had an argument and a chance. So who knows how that all shook out behind the scenes, but to your point, I mean, it's pro sports, so it's going to happen. People, anytime the NFL releases their teams or the NBA releases theirs or MLB, everyone's in the comments always, oh, this person got snubbed, this person got snubbed. So I think it's going to be the UFL can't avoid that happening, but I do agree that, and I think that is a frustrating part, is sometimes it feels like they just, oh, this person's leading in interceptions, let's give him the thing, when in reality, oh, Ajani Harris, yes, he had a good season, but he also gave up the second most receiving yards of any cornerback in the league, and he was targeted a ton. That's why he had a couple of the interceptions that he had, was because he gets a lot of targets his way. So, case in point, Jaden Price led the league in PBUs. I don't know why he wasn't given any sort of nod, but
in 2023, wasn't Deion Kane was MVP, right? For the USFL?
MVP, championship game MVP.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Alex Magoo was MVP.
Yeah, 23 was Alex Magoo. Last year,
Deion Kane actually didn't do much that year until the championship.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's funny because I know we're having amazingly a second straight year of conversation at the QB position about like playing time versus like the excitement factor. Because like I know last year we talked about Luis Perez wasn't on a winning team, but as a quarterback for that candidate for talking like All-UFL and MVP candidate nods, was kind of not looked at as that choice because he was on a losing Renegades squad. This year, not as much the same look, but like it's funny how 2 years in a row the QB positions come down to more of the most exciting, gets the most viral and discussed about player, I feel, rather than the one that I think on the field is shown maybe should have been getting these choices overall. So kind of interesting trend that's happening there.
Ref, I want to point out, I thought your center, Jack Kramer, was snubbed from the All-UFL list. I thought Mike Panasiewicz is phenomenal. I don't want to disrespect him because this is his third straight All-XFL or All-UFL selection. Maybe I'm getting sick. You guys just put something in my throat or something? What the heck's going on? I can't talk.
Oh, pause.
Heyo.
Goodness, I don't know where that came from. But anywho, Mike Panasiewicz, look, this is his third straight year winning this award, and I think he's deserved. He's one of the best guys and best centers in this league. We've seen St. Louis have a tremendous ground attack the last few years with him at center, but Jack Kramer was really highly praised by just about everybody in the league. You look at his stats, you look at the numbers that he put up on PFF grades, they're all really, really good. Very similar to Panasiewicz, so it could go either way, but in my opinion, this is one of those situations where Panasiewicz, he's on the 8-2 Battlehawks, Jack Kramer, he's on the 5-5 Roughnecks that did not make the playoffs. That probably played a factor, because when you kind of break down the film and listen to the people that talked about these players, like Mike Nolan, heading into this past game, Mike Nolan called Kramer the best offensive lineman in the league. So
yeah, and it's a shame too because this is a team that went 500 times better than they were last year. You apply that math to, like, just if they continue upon that trajectory, we're looking at so many games in a row. You're not going to stop us. 500 times better than that's 25 games in a row. That's us. Next 2 seasons, 12-0. Manifesting it, and everyone, Roughnecks are going to relocate. No, they're not, because we're winning 12-0 next year, and do you see the trajectory that we're on here? Coach of the year, make it happen now. CJ Johnson, get ahead of the game.
If we were to see the votes, I think he actually does get one, but he's not going to win that award. So.
Is he going to vote? Are you saying he's going to vote for himself?
No, I'm saying someone will, depending on how this goes, should at least give him one, but not for a guy who doesn't qualify for the playoffs. You gotta give it to someone that's in there. I think that's what's going to be the difference maker. But 5-5 is a respectable finish compared to last year, and the positive signs for what was a very downtrodden franchise for the first half of the season and earlier.
Yeah, great way to cap off the season. Zach, what do you think?
I mean, I already told you. I already said, good job. You got 5-5.
What the heck was that?
Sorry, Zach's the only Panthers fan here this week, so he's the only one I get to pick on. Usually I pick on more than one
James
person.
is a Panthers fan. He is a Panthers fan. No, don't put up the Jace Sternberger shirt. You are a Panthers fan. This guy.
That is total bullcrap. I don't root for any teams in the UFL.
No, he's a liar.
No, he's a neutral party. He's a reporter.
Non-biased. But, Ref, to your point, Houston showed a lot of improvement. I thought CJ's comment, I posted it earlier to Twitter, I thought it was interesting. He wants to keep as much as they can intact heading into next season. And I think that's the key, right? We're coming into this year, we didn't know who the hell the leaders were going to be in Houston. And that's exactly what CJ Johnson said. You have a complete overhaul in the offseason. You bring in a new GM. There's a lot of new faces and players. You're trying to, kind of change the narrative after a 1-9 season. And look, things didn't get off to a good start. Anthony Brown wasn't who we thought he would be. He never really settled into the system. Nolan Henderson showed a ton of potential, but he gets hurt, and then all of a sudden Jalen McClendon comes out, and we're like, holy crap, he's got potentially the most NFL-ready arm of any quarterback in this league. Now, I think there are quarterbacks in this league better than Jalen, but when we're talking pure arm talent, no one throws a deep ball better than Jalen in this league. He's more accurate than Tiamu. I think he's more consistent than Bryce Perkins. And talking about deep balls, Jamar Smith's the only other guy that's really in that conversation, and we've only seen him for a couple of games. So, anywho, with all that to be said, I think Houston's heading in the right direction. I hope that they keep most of what they have intact and kind of just refine the roster moving forward. There's always going to be a couple guys you lose to the NFL, always going to be a couple vets you might want to move on from, but we shouldn't see the major overhaul that we did under Will Lewis coming in last summer.
So a couple of quick notes from the Roughnecks watch party. There was CJ's challenges. So if we didn't already know from the internet, when he put out that first challenge, everybody was like, you know what? He might actually win this one. He won it. And then it was just a few minutes later, he couldn't contain himself. There was so much anger at that Roughnecks watch party that CJ just could not contain himself to hold that. He won the challenge. He had to get rid of that other one before the half on a horrible call. And yeah, people weren't happy with CJ. I was a staunch CJ defender. I was quick to point out we're 400 times better than we were last year. We're about to be 500 times better than we were last year. You apply that math, 12-0, 12-0, 1-0 start the next season. Who knows where the streak is going to end? Rough him up. I'm ready.
I got to give applause to that challenge because he has been extremely erratic with challenges, as we know. It's a very love-hate one for two reasons for the hate side. Not only because I am a Panthers fan, and I have to reiterate that because I have to keep saying that to you, Stefan, down in the corner. But also for the fact, I'm that guy where it's like, you know what? We're gonna call these penalties where we find some obscure thing from across the field anymore because that's the trend this year. But you know what? It was the right call, and clearly it burns because it didn't convert the 3rd and 5. Blah blah blah. That being said, though, good challenge, and again, if we're talking next year, and this is full scope, I think a lot of our conversations on retaining rosters, we do hear these guys that go up to the next level, and this is about getting that film out there and getting people looked at from the NFL. But I do want to start almost looking at the UFL in the way that we see it with how the CFL's one-year deals are in a lot of ways, where more often than not, you're going to see a lot of these key guys on these teams and their GMs. They'll be like, hey, we want you back. Let's get you signed on again. Let's talk. There's going to be some surprise retirements here or there. You're going to have some guys that do get to these practice squads. Maybe some come back. Maybe some stay. You hope that if you do get to stay, But odds are, and we've seen this trend, you're likely going to see the majority of these guys come back, which means right now it's the perfect time to either, A, lock these guys in as soon as you can and convince them to come back, and B, if you have any way of showing that your system's better and playing that game, which is, okay, maybe a few of these guys don't want to return to a certain roster. Let that play out. See if you can get it on a waiver wire or free agent market. This is the new game I want discussed more and more. Because the truth is, you're going to have guys that have played, some of these, I think, that will have played 4 or 5 years in spring football next year. We're having spring football veterans. These aren't just guys that are coming in and going away anymore. We're having actual guys that have been in the scene for a minute now on a regular basis. That's the combo I want to start talking about more and more, because the truth is we will see the NFL guys jump. But in reality, we've got our UFL core. Let's see if those return people are big. Then it's about getting those young draftees and convincing them to come in too and mixing them in with the guys that are the system guys. So Houston's on the right path in my eyes, because now you got your quarterback. If Jalen comes back next year, if you like him, if he wants to come back, or if you have someone underneath him like Anthony Brown who wants to come back and wants to keep learning under this system, then you build around the rest. What were you missing? What were the things you could not get done this year that you adjusted late in the season? That's the rub. And I think I want to start seeing that. Some of these teams got to get new coaches and whatnot. That's fine. But the ones that showed improvement, okay, great. That's what we need to start talking about a bit more and more.
And that's why I'm totally okay with the idea of keeping CJ Johnson and this coaching staff intact, and why I'm also on board with trying to retain who you can in Memphis as well. Because you look at some of these teams that struggled this year, there's still a lot of talent on those teams, and they had some unfortunate things happen. Houston, Houston just got off to too slow of a start and then blows a 19-point lead to Birmingham, and that's that. Memphis, all the coaching turmoil there, like, you can't expect that team to really amount to too much when you've got a head coach that leaves right before the season, comes back for 2 weeks, leaves again. You bring in a new offensive coordinator who switches the whole system midway through the year, and then you're on a quarterback carousel the rest of the season. A lot of these circumstances were out of a lot of these guys' control. And we look at the showboats, they lost 2 one-point games to Houston. They were in a lot of games late in these last 2 games. I know they were blowouts against Arlington and Birmingham, but at the end of the season, they kind of ran out of gas. And again, things were just really tough for them this year. So I would hope that we see at least most of these coaching staffs come back, because you need that camaraderie and that chemistry. The spring football scene is not going to improve if we keep having turnover after turnover after turnover. Like, look at it, Memphis, 3 different coaching staffs in 3 different years, and technically it's 3.5 coaching staffs, because Ken Wisenhunt wasn't even there this year. It was Jim Turner who took over. So you go from Todd Haley to John DeFilippo to Ken Wisenhunt to Jim Turner. Of course that team's going to be 2-8. You know, like, there's not much you can really do in that sort of situation. San Antonio is a tough one, because to have a fall off from 7-3 and in the championship to 1-9, and you're not really competitive with much of anybody this year, that's a different story. The big X factor is Wade Phillips going to come back, and if he is he actually going to be a coach, right? Because if he's going to come back and just be the guy that's, he's sick half the time and he's up in the booth, like, you don't want a sickly Wade Phillips in here as your head coach. If he can come back and actually rally the troops and get this coaching staff back on the right track, then hey, keep the Brahmas intact. But we'll see what happens moving forward with that. This offseason is going to be really, really fascinating to watch unfold.
Yes, absolutely. You know, coaching-wise, that's the case for sure. But yeah, for those that are building up, like a Houston and whatnot, or, you know, say you're like a Arlington, where I don't know if you're going to change out things, but like, you finished better than last year, but you were still underwhelming. You know, that's the thing. Who comes back? Who do you stay and keep with that core that worked? And then how do you adjust and bring in and keep convincing and getting these new draftees in? So, you know, we're in that early stage for the ones that are out. Plus also, as we all now know, the 4 teams that are not making the playoffs, those players, free to explore options now. So, you know, that's the new phase where you're going to have GM sitting on the side like, hey, go explore, young man. You got the summertime. We're going to start doing evals for the college draft right now, but keep us in touch. We want to talk to you, because in the end of the day, if you can't make that roster, or say in training camp you do get released and you still want to keep playing, we need to talk now, because the sooner you get these guys signed on, the sooner you can get down what you need to do for off-season programs, even if it is a loose in that fall, winter season about trying to organize things, the sooner you can get back on track to trying to better yourself and do better with the next year. And I think that's what's really important more and more. But yeah, the coaching decisions, yeah, you have 3 teams here that are talking coaching more like that I think are going to be certainly fun to watch, and that makes for a chaotic year ahead. Plus, whoever's new, if there supposedly are additions to the league. I mean, that's the other factor too. We don't know who else is coming in that might add on to the slew of coaching and front office personnel down the road.
Well, that's the beauty of the offseason, right? We head into the unknown, right? Everybody's talking about expansion, our team's relocating, which, I don't know, we'll see. Everything's possible when you head into the offseason. But then you look at, okay, we already have a couple teams with interim coaches. I don't know. If I'm looking at DC, Shannon Harris is the coach, right? They probably should have stripped that interim title a while ago. You lead a team to the playoffs. I don't think there was a lot of people that gave... me included, DC didn't have a great record last year, right? And so you're coming into the season. Not only did they lose the head coach, they were losing coaches into the season. And not only did they string a season together, they're going into the playoffs. They were arguably one of the best. They're in the top 4 teams in the league, right? So, I mean, that, to me, you kind of got that one locked down. When you look at Memphis, maybe you move some things around. When you look at San Antonio, I don't know, right? And San Antonio could be in the spot too, right? Bad season this year, regroup from the beginning of next year. Maybe you give these coaches another shot at it. But that's the beauty of going into the offseason. Who knows what we're going to see? I think we all still agree, put Jaron a head coach somewhere, whether it's expansion, whether it's a relocation, whether it's Memphis. That's the one thing I'll stand on here. But Houston, I'm still happy with CJ. If anything, is those mic'd up moments on the sideline. I mean, he brings, if there's a bad game going on, the one thing you can count on is if CJ's mic'd up, there's at least going to be some entertainment down there. I love it. Shut up. What number? 4.
You brought up Harris. It's too bad because he will be going. Last I remember it was Tennessee State. So I mean,
Yeah, that's the thing that I'm curious about is what is that salary difference going to look like for Shannon? What is his situation going to be like? Because
and is
it
the
was
league convinced that they want to keep? Like, do you try and make a last minute pitch? Because I mean,
and are you willing to maybe shell out a bit more this season to kind of keep the coaches that really help this league move forward? Shannon's done a tremendous job, and you can. He's such a big culture guy there, right? DC, the culture that they've had with Reggie has completely transferred over with Shannon Harris and has continued to grow. You don't want to lose that. Shannon's loved by the fans, like that whole staff, like everyone just vibes and connects. It's just a perfect setup for DC. Do you really want to lose that? And again, and especially looking at, kind of the history of the coaches that these spring leagues have brought in, are we going to let Shannon go to Tennessee State and then bring in another NFL wash-up that's going to be some guy that just bring in older schemes? Like, no, like we should really be giving these opportunities to the younger guys like Shannon, who's had a tremendous year so far, taking over for Reggie Barlow. To be sick, look, I know they lost the last 2 games, but again, you're resting guys, you're not playing your starters. 6-2 through 8 games, 6-4 to end the season, you're in the playoffs. This was, in my opinion, a huge success for Shannon. And again, getting back to the contracts, what is Tennessee State going to offer him? Look, Tennessee State is obviously a really good job, but can they pay the same amount that a head coaching job in the UFL is going to pay? And on that note, like, Shannon, do you want to be a quarterback's coach at Tennessee State, or do you want to be head coach of the UFL's DC Defenders? That, to me, that'll be an interesting question for the UFL, Tennessee State, Shannon Harris, and all those guys to figure out this offseason.
Well, especially
I feel like head coach is a better thing on your resume, like head coach of pro football team rather than whatever's coach at college, university. It's just, I feel like DC just is like an obvious choice to me. Obviously, money plays an issue too, so
it does.
But at the same time, you're trying to build your resume, and I feel like having that head coaching experience is probably a better thing than staying at a quarterback's coach.
And not even just head coaching experience with a playoff ready team, as is evidence with what we're heading into the playoffs. They're one of the teams. They might even win the championship this year, right? There's still a couple games that, that'll decide that, but that is a reality on the docket. And I mean, maybe that's more incentive to stay. Maybe that's more incentive to go too. Okay, well, I already knocked out the championship. Let me go start over. We'll see. But something to look forward to in the off season. I will say this because I saw somebody saying it in the chat. I actually don't think Houston is relocating. That's no joke. And maybe wool is being pulled over my eyes, but I had some honest, earnest conversations over the weekend. And from what all I could tell, Houston is back next year. I mean, there's still a lease at TDECU. And I mean, it does make sense. Why would they would have to pay that either way? I think Houston's going to be back. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm hoping we get, and this is not anything we talked about, but this is when it comes to scheduling, more night games. Anywhere in the South, more night games, please. Just anytime we can get shade in play, because, I missed that last home game, but you could see it on TV. Even just starting it at, 2:00 Central, there was shade in the end zones. It wasn't just that last row of the home section. And because of that, people sat in their actual seats. And, so please do more of that.
Here's what I'll say about Houston is, look, obviously things were not strong there from an attendance standpoint this year, but this isn't Houston failing the UFL. I think it's a sign of the UFL failing Houston as a market. The lack of marketing, the lack of direction as an organization down there. I mean, Rev, you can speak to it. Like, who in Houston knows that the Roughnecks are still playing there? There's not much going on. There's very few local events. And look, you had Wade Phillips, who's kind of a loved figure down there in Houston as your head coach in 2023. And, Ref, you were there at those games. They were lively. They had good crowds. You fast forward a year later, all of a sudden, it's C.J. Johnson's 1-9 Roughnecks playing at Rice Stadium. And everyone, because, again, the casual fan doesn't really keep up with the UFL the way us nuts and gurus do, you're down there in games and people are like, where's Wade? And it's week 5, week 6, and you're at home, and they're wondering, who's who's CJ Johnson? Where the hell did Wade Phillips go? And it's like, oh, actually, Wade's been the coach of the San Antonio Brahmas this whole season. And they're like, huh? When did that happen? Like, it's that kind of lack of connection to where, like, look, this isn't entirely on the market's fault. You handed them a team that went 1-9 and took away their beloved head coach. Let's give Houston, in my opinion, I think Houston needs to be given one more opportunity with some legitimate marketing. This Houston team's doing better now. I think they actually have more of a direction with CJ Johnson, Jalen McClendon, and the rest of this roster. Let's give another chance. Like, this is on the UFL to be marketing and connecting with the fan base. I don't think there's still a lot of Roughnecks fans there. They just kind of felt a little hurt, and, that's how it goes. Spring football has come and gone in a lot of these places, so. We'll see how it shakes out, but
I think we're going to see it because, one of the things that I think hurt us behind the scenes is, we've talked about, we lost Brett Zaleski, but in that we also lost like a true local guy in the Houston market. We saw how that impacted Birmingham, but now they've actually hired a couple local guys in Houston.
Really?
And to me, that's going to be huge because it's not just the people like you and I. We're already sold, right? But my tickets are already renewed. Right. But a guy to go to these local businesses, try to get group tickets and sale, maybe even trying to get sponsorships, somebody that lives in the area. Well, the league might be headquartered in Arlington. This guy lives in Houston. He's here every day of the week. He's making conversations. He's taking people to lunch, and to have multiple people like that, even just this early, we're talking, the season hadn't even ended yet. Regular season's over now, but they're actively getting renewals. Now, I will say this, the one thing, and I don't know if they got what the point I was trying to make. I said, I'm surprised. Why don't you promote these watch parties on social media? And they said, well, these are only for season ticket holders. So yeah, but we're already sold.
But
we already bought tickets, right? Like, to me, open that up. And I don't think there's going to be any season ticket holder that would be angry that the watch parties got opened up. If anything, there's going to be more people there. I will say this, there was a good crowd at the watch party. That was nice to see. We didn't get the big screen. The soccer people did. But I think we outweighed the soccer people. So the soccer people got the big TV, but they also got annoyed by us, the Roughnecks fans, because we beat the down and dirty.
Real football.
Yeah, exactly. That's damn it, Tucky. That's what I should have said. Put the real football on the big TV. Anyway, next time.
I have a perfect transition for this, and I'm kind of whipping together my little graphic for what I'm going to write because I do emphasize right. I don't often do for as much as I should for PFM, but I do want to do something this year, and I think I want to hear from you in the audience. If you're a season ticket holder, if you went to a game this year, but especially if you're a season ticket holder, tell me and message us at Around the UFL, our Twitter account, and let me and us know what the league did right, what it didn't do right, what it promised, what it didn't hold on promises, and what you feel needs to be done. Because here's the deal. I think there is a disconnect with the fans and the front office or ticketing personnel. They are trying to address this, but I think they need to hear more directly from people like us. And I want to create something like that. And I especially got burned this weekend when the Memphis Showboats did not hold their end of the bargain, and they did not hold Retro Night or Retro Day. And I know that seems silly when I say it out loud like that. Well, what's that big deal? You promised fans and season ticket holders something, and you failed again. And this is a multiple time issue that the league has done. This isn't a one-off. So
and
if you want your voice heard, yeah, and people know. Look,
like if you look at the Instagram post of the Showboats graphic, the final score of 46-9. Go look at some of those comments. There's fans in there that were like, "Hey, what happened? We were expecting Throwback Day. This is what we paid for."
Exactly.
There was nothing there. Why did that happen? So you're wondering, look, Memphis already has been a disaster of a market the last couple of years, but you're doing stuff like that and you're shooting yourself in the foot, right? And this has been the biggest issue for the UFL over the last 2 seasons, the self-inflicted wounds, right? Think of some of the team. Think of the Arlington Renegades. Why can't they make the playoffs? Self-inflicted wounds. Why won't the UFL be successful if that is the case down the road? Self-inflicted wounds. It's the same thing. Like there's things that it's in the league's control to do better in these areas, and they need to do it.
Yeah,
look at that. You got a fan right there.
Perfect. I'm glad. Like I said, these are the folks I want to hear from. Because, like, look, we did have a discussion online about this, and someone's like, well, maybe they're not there. It's like, who cares? Even if you are not, even if the team is up for debate, we can all talk about debates on what teams are here or not here next year. Even if they're not here, you still should hold your end of the bargain till the end. Like, that's the thing. People buy these tickets. And I see someone chop God's sauce. I'm going to call you out. Oh, 2,000 people are upset. That's 2,000 customers that you are screwing over, sir, which the league needs those customers. I don't care how many it is. If you're a salesperson, and this is something I've learned from talking with salespeople in the sports space, every customer matters. You don't undervalue because you just undersold. You either do a better job or you aren't realizing what you're doing wrong with your job. And I think that's something the league is slowly trying to get at, but is not still grasping, because if you make a promise in the offseason, fans don't forget that stuff, especially if they're spending their money on the stuff they expect.
Well,
that was a big slap in the face.
Especially in Memphis. They might not have a huge crowd, but they have a dedicated crowd. All of those 2,000 people, every one of those is probably season ticket holders. Zach, those guys are out there every weekend holding tailgates. You mentioned you can't get away with it with fans. They probably could have got away with it in Houston. I'll be honest. They probably could have made that promise at the beginning of the year about a gambler's throwback, and people probably wouldn't remember at the end of the season. You saw the crowd dwindled pretty bad down there. Memphis, though, they're going to remember because they're at every game. They're making their own merch, right? They have like spatulas and their own hats and the captain's hats and the whole thing. They're organized down there. So it is a shame. Now I'm curious with the retro day, the throwback day. Did they just say throwback day? Was there anything promised? I think because the assumption is, okay, they're going to wear throwback jerseys, right? You hear that, and that's right.
Decals,
I don't know who made that assumption,
gear,
but
yeah, decals, sideline gear, and merch that was supposed to be sold at the event. And the scoreboard was also supposed to be changed to fit the retro aesthetic of them playing Liberty Bowl back in 1985, which the whole point was it was the 40-year anniversary of that team making the playoffs in the USFL. So there are old school guys there that go to that. That's the thing. It's not just like a small fan base thing. Again, I see the same guy going, they shouldn't support it in Memphis. That's not what I'm talking about. You're missing the message. It's a failed promise. It's not a thing where it's just Memphis, all Memphis being Memphis. No, the league runs Memphis. If they're screwing up doing this with one team, you don't think they're doing it wrong with these other teams? That's what I'm trying to get across. So again, this was supposed to be like an elaborate big day, and keep in mind for Memphis crowd, that was 4,500, fine. Like, still celebrate that. Like, that's football history right there. That's what they bought tickets for. That was part of the whole package when you buy a season ticket. So you don't just bail on your promise. And if you do, you're supposed to let people know you changed it. Again, this is policy. This is common sense sports marketing and ticketing policy. And it's just massive failures. It's surprising how consistently it is that way. And more and more this year, I've gotten more frustrated by it because I love the people that are fans of this league because they put in their money and put in their time. And what they get rewarded with is half-assed behavior on a consistent basis. It's really upsetting.
Jack, because of that, we're playing 2 of the Panthers' home games in Houston next year.
Oh, good. You're a big ball of joy. You're really just adding on to my talk.
just an update, guys. We're still Jaydon Mickens has something come up, so kind of uncertain if he'll be joining us still or not. But hopefully he comes on soon. But if not, it's because
life happens.
I hope he does. I tell you, we were talking pre-show. I want to ask him about his Super Bowl appearance. He was the kick return for the Bucs. That's a big responsibility.
And you'd think DC will want to rely on some of his playoff experience here as they enter the postseason again for the first time since 2023. So we'll see what comes to that. But in other news, it was an interesting weekend of football. Lots of blowouts. I mean, the competition's been really good as of late, but this past week, especially Sunday's slate, was I'll be interested to see what those TV ratings look like because neither one of those games was all that exciting unless you were a Stallions fan and you got to see Tay Crowder and his 2 pick sixes. Anyone else? Arlington was kind of blasé. They won handedly, but it's San Antonio, and the Brahmas once again disappointed.
San Antonio. I mean, look, I think like for examples, if we're talking for football's sake, and I'll leave it open to the floor. just get the resets needed. It's amazing the fall off, just some of the surrounding, I think, drama with, early season, like AJ Smith leaving and having to deal with Wade Phillips, having to go on the sideline the rest of the year. And I give kudos to Peyton Party and his crew for holding down the forts. But, there's a lot of turnover that's going to be coming for that franchise in particular. And not to mention, like, going back to our ticketing talk, like, getting an extra home game would be nice. Those fans getting that would be good too, but it's too bad. It was kind of like, kind of as expected. Arlington, I think you're playing that game and you're thinking, man, what could have been if we just finished the job in a few of these contests, which I think might change how the dynamic of the playoffs plays to week 10. But still, it's like, you have to wonder, better year, but still, what could have been if we just finished the job in one or two games that we are holding the lead tight? And that's there,
I know that feeling, brother. We're one game away from knocking you. If we would have won the other refs law game, Zach, it might be my team going up against the Stallions this weekend and not yours. I think about that every second of my life. And that's why next year we can't lose a game. We can't lose 5 games. We're winning both refs law games. Speaking of chippy game, fun game. Refs law rivalry is real, Zach. Did you I mean, the players were like, we gotta win this for ref. They were knocking your players around. I mean, like the little babies they are. We're about to see.
That's
mean,
okay.
the
little babies get an extra game, so I'll take that, and an extra paycheck on top of the boot.
We don't need money. We were the enforcers of justice in this league. We set the seating right. First, we took care of you. Well, actually, second, we took care of you. I don't want to. Maybe this is why Mickens isn't joining. He knows.
He knows.
We set the seating right first with his team, then with yours. Anyway,
he just knows. That's the deal.
No, I was there at the game, and it was pretty chippy. There was a lot of back and forth. There was a lot of smack talk. Houston was instigating a lot of it. I'll tell you that.
Good.
Avery Genesee, number 74. He's been a long time player in this league. He had a lot of words for some of those Michigan defensive linemen and players. That was.
I gave him some of those words.
What was that?
I gave him some of those words. I said, "Say this while you're out there."
I'm sure.
It was written on a $20 bill. That's a joke, just in case.
Kudos to the coaches at the end when they're finishing up for separating teams and keeping things a little professional. Because there was a slight chance. I wouldn't say it was going to get ugly, but there was a chance there was going to get a few grabbing of jerseys at the end of that Michigan-Houston game. And Mike and CJ did a good job kind of saying, all right, guys, come on. It's the end of the year.
I was right next to CJ as he was barking that out. He was like, hey, break it up.
Right. Yeah, I mean,
come on,
that's
guys.
the thing. Like you finish on a high note for the league for a day in Michigan. 16,000 people in attendance. Like, like one of the success stories of growth in the league this year with that market and its growth as a whole. It shows what can be. If things are put in the right position and with the right people. So it was. I don't know. Yes, it's a meaningless game. I'm glad that things went well operation wise and for that. So that's what I got to give. Shout out to the crew out there for doing a good job. What else did I have for this week?
Birmingham slaughtering.
Birmingham
rain game.
Memphis was interesting. Just given how that game went. Honestly, the rain game in DC, I was like, I was in a completely different dimension with that one. It felt like
what a great way to have a preview
and all that. Yeah.
What a great way to have a preview of the playoffs, because now to me, it makes it very difficult for each team to use anything from that game to gauge for the playoffs, right? It was nature stepping in and saying, nope, no easy track for either of you. And it wasn't just a little bit of water, Zach. There was like pools. We saw people doing the slide on the field. It was fun. Great way to cap off Friday night football in the UFL. UFL After Dark always delivers something fun. Low scoring game, fun game.
Yeah. Two quotes I do want to see brought up here. First off, UFL Isaac, glad you joined us again. Shout out to DC fans because they stayed until the end. I mean, that's commitment to be out there. Any rain sporting event like that in football. And that was, torrential downpour and all that. So shout out to those guys. I saw the Matty Fresh videos of them out that way. And good God, like monsoon season, it was like out there, out in the East Coast. And then with my Panthers Pride guys, how much do you think the bobblehead had to do with the ticket sales? Any thoughts, gentlemen?
A whole bunch. I mean, you had a Jake Bates promo, and Jake Bates showed up at the game, ends up walking out and doing like the pregame hype with Ryan Nelson. So, man, the second he stepped out of that tunnel, there was a few hundred fans, I think, just all crowded around that lower bleacher section. Then, of course, there's a pregame access as well. So the poor guy was just, Jake, sign my this, sign that, sign this, sign that. Like, he was overwhelmed, but he had a smile the whole time, was going around signing kids' bobbleheads, and he signed some random dude's jacket. He was all over the place. But that was really good to see, and that's the type of stuff that, we need to see more moving forward in Michigan, right? Like, the base for their fan base should be this attendance, because we know Michigan loves their football. We've seen them show up in the past. I think this is a really good base for them to build off of into next year, and really trying to connect with the Lions fans, right? I mean, Jake Bates came from the Panthers. You have that connection there. They both play at Ford Field. I also want to give a shout out to UFL Isaac, who was there in the comments. We got to meet this week. He was at the game, and ref, you'll love this. I believe his sister was wearing a Houston Gamblers t-shirt. So repping the Gamblers.
All in.
So had to give a shout out to that as well. But yeah, no, it was definitely, the whole Jake Bates promo was a great pull by the local marketing team. Got to shout out those guys on that team for putting that together and making it happen, and getting a sponsor out of it too. That's a big thing. That's the stuff that we need to see more of. If you guys paid attention, I think it's some attorney or something, Kitch something or other. I don't remember what the exact name was.
They should make the logo bigger on the bobblehead next time.
And local sponsorship too, which is something that, for a league that is this size, but also does, in a way, we feel should be pulling from the minor league tropes of, your very boots on the ground local connection and stuff like that. And I know it's hard with the bubble, like that's the thing, but you do want to get those local inroads with some of those businesses. Michigan was a great example, I feel like, of that this year. Again, I know you can't say it's like it's not the exact blueprint. No blueprint's perfect for what to do in the future, but factors aside of the Jake Bates connection, the success on the field, they did do and put in the groundwork this year. And I think that a lot of those lessons from this season can be taken for what did work and what does work for that regard of being in a market. Something that, like we talk, like Stefan talking, you get local ticket reps, guys that know the area. Birmingham's doing this now. Houston apparently is getting multiple guys that are from the Houston area and focusing in on people that understand a little bit more what the market says, what the market does, what you need to do, from being in there. So these are all future items. We do have the playoffs to talk at some point and the power rankings and all that, but a lot of future talk because half the league's done for the year, and it's that time of year we got to start talking about what's next. Playoffs are here, but that is right behind the door after we go through the first corridor of the playoffs and the championship game.
Before we do that, we do need to carve out a moment to talk about the Stallions just beating down the Showboats again. It was so reminiscent. The Showboats got a couple extra points out of it. 46-9. I was expecting Skip to be like, I want that 50 burger. I thought it might be coming. Nope, they didn't do it.
Skip doesn't lose twice to a team in a season. And
that was the revenge game.
Football season, if Memphis doesn't get blown out by Birmingham at least once.
Yeah.
It's been every year. Every year it happens. So the fact that it didn't happen in week 5, you knew it was coming. But I got to say, look, we talk about relocation, this and that. Who knows what's exactly going to happen with Memphis. But if that was the Showboats' last game in Memphis, that was, I feel like, a storybook ending to the disaster, the mess, and just the utter dumpster fire that Memphis was the last couple of years in the UFL.
Not Memphis. It's a cursed team, I think, at this point. Because
I honestly, I feel like it's Browns. It's like the Browns. It's like, so many years, the Browns, if you look at them on paper, it's like they have a really good team. Like on paper, it's like this is a really good team. Memphis on paper is a very good team. They are just a cursed team. That's the way it works.
That Bandits curse. You lift it. It's a Pirate's curse is what it is. It must be Pirate Todd Haley, something in there with twerking. I don't know. Because you got to look at it. Tiamu, we were talking about earlier. Tiamu, MVP of the season. MVP. Dude couldn't even get in the playoffs with the Bandits. Cursed
because
team.
they had Kyle Sloter and the Breakers. So I mean,
Wow.
come on.
Cursed
That's
team.
true. You can't get past Kyle Slater.
17 to
he's
6,
on another
baby.
level. It's on another level.
All USFL quarterback. It's just he was that
Well,
guy.
you know, if only Jason Bean had reported like RJ Young felt that he would. That would have changed everything.
RJ Young and like 30 other people.
Oh man.
Season game changer if Jason Bean goes to the team instead of sitting out. Where's he doing these days? I don't know where he's at.
I think he's still with the Colts.
Oh, that was partially a joke, but
Oh.
What's he doing? He's in the UFL.
Not anymore. Memphis just lost. They're done.
Oh,
for the
Season's
next
over.
year right now.
What was Bean's final stat line? Anyone know?
-3.
He was in for one. He's in for one run, and it was a QB RPO, and he decided to play around for 5 seconds in the pocket and got sacked. That's about
Dude,
it.
I saw on Twitter or Instagram. I didn't get to watch Memphis game, but did they put their defensive line in on offense?
Oh, Memphis?
Should
Yeah.
we talk about grenade?
Yeah,
the
we
play?
had a good old grenade package come out where they had 3
Okay.
defensive linemen. I think it was Dylan Famatau, Devere Levelston, and Josiah Brunson out there with tight end J.J. Wilson taking the direct snap. That was fun. It worked twice, and then they tried it a third time, and it got blown up. So Birmingham, third time's a charm defensively for them. They got the stop, but
It's like a
that
little
was-
Memphis.
That was
system.
fun. That was like the one bright spot for Memphis all day.
Yeah.
Yeah, for real.
I will
Actually,
say, we'd be remiss if we didn't shout out Jaron Horton on
Yes.
the podcast.
On top of the other shout outs.
viral
Dean
moment of the
Blindino.
week.
That is, there have been some blatantly awful calls this year. How in the hell do you throw a super challenge on a face mask / roughing the passer? You could have called either or.
Yep.
And it's
that's-
like, oh,
and
we're
nothing
not going to
happens.
call either one. Like,
Yeah.
what?
And that's why I push for this league to get
Ref, can you
health
bring up
coverage
that
and
clip
stuff.
on here?
Oh,
Like,
geez,
Do you have the clip handy?
You got to have eye
Yeah.
coverage for these
Geez,
people that work
Ducky,
here.
I am so glad that they got that sorted because I'm with you there. I was like, dude, you can't tell me you're doing union
Yeah.
negotiations.
Like
and
now
someone's
he
gonna be
has
like,
the
"No
health care
coverage."
to go get his eyes checked out, and next season he will have glasses, guys. So those calls won't be happening next year.
Exactly. Maybe we can have 2 glasses wearing refs in the skybox, and then they both still call things completely different.
These aren't my glasses, but I'm wearing them.
You know what would be what would make for possibly great TV besides this, by the way. Which,
My
thank
comment
God.
down there.
I love this. Oh yeah, I'm going to assume the UFL doesn't cover insurance. That's perfect. my other thought is maybe we can solve the eyeball issue there, and we can have a sit down debate with Mike and Mike and Co. And we can have him and Dean discuss the rule book. I think it would be like a presidential debate. Be kind of fun.
I like that, dude. Like
2 argument
internet blood
interpretations.
sports.
Because I mean, they both feel like they're very different interpretation of this rule book. So I'd love to see it.
See, this is why Jared needs to be the head coach.
Dude,
I'll show you.
I'm gonna Photoshop that clip of Jared and make him look like an iPad baby. He's gonna be holding it. It's gonna be saying, he's gonna be pointing to like Cocoa Melon or something.
Oh,
That's wild.
no. New meme template.
Well, Ref,
So
I-
should we
Jace-
look at the
Jace is
power
about
look
to
at the
join.
power rankings? Might as well
Yeah.
share your screen again.
Yeah.
Might as well drop
guys-
it in while we got the chance.
You guys hear me?
Yeah.
Jace is about to join.
All right. Perfect.
Oh, sweet. The Mickens interview will be maybe for another time, or maybe late. One of the two.
I'll be Mickens.
Maybe Mickens today. Hey, Jaydon, how's the Super Bowl?
Pretty
how-
good.
It's good.
He's not gonna say it was bad.
Hey, what was it like playing with Tom Brady?
Yeah, it's all right. I've seen Kyle Sloter play, but
I mean, I know it doesn't match up to Jordan To'o Moo, but you know.
Oh,
Never
boy.
changed.
All right.
So I wonder if
Power
we're going to
rankings.
get heat about our power rankings this week. I feel like we all had to defend them last week. Maybe this week people will see, okay, the Battlehawks are at number 2. I still think the Stallions number 1. We saw the Stallions one. They're just, I don't know, there's something about them. Once they're like, they need to win, they're winning. When you think they're a horrible team, they're still the best team in the division. You think they're falling apart, doesn't matter. Playoffs are around the corner. They're number 1 in my book. Battlehawks, I still think they're going to be in the championship.
Here's my take on I'm actually kind of upset I'm saying this before Jace comes on, because then he's gonna act like I didn't say anything pro Birmingham.
He's
But
watching right now as he's getting ready.
this is a nightmare situation for Michigan. You've got Birmingham heading into the playoffs with Jamar Smith playing the best football of his pro career. We have not seen Jamar Smith play better football than he has these last 2 weeks. And mind you, look at what Birmingham's doing on third downs. It is ridiculous. 11 of 13 a week ago. Look, they were 9 for 12 this weekend, which would have been a record had they not been 11 for 13 against Michigan, which is insane. Like, that is 75% or better efficiency in back-to-back games on third downs. It's not like they went 2 or 3 third downs. These are 13, 12 attempts per game. Birmingham just put up 46 points, and they've won 2 straight heading into the playoffs. The Panthers, they've lost 2 straight. And I know, look, the game against Birmingham, you're missing Bryce Perkins, and of course, then you play Rocky Lombardi this week, but you're heading into the playoffs on a 2-game losing streak. The defense has a lot to figure out. They're still very, very thin. They keep losing guys basically week in and week out. Meanwhile, Birmingham just keeps getting pieces back. They're going to get Bradley and I back next week after that defensive line continues to play well, even with all their backups. We're looking at a team that only allowed 9 points to Memphis. Like, I don't know. Maybe I'm being too doomsday, but Michigan fans, and I'm not talking to myself, I'm talking to actual Michigan Panthers fans, I'd be a little bit worried. Because Bryce Perkins is going to have to come in after not playing for 3 weeks, and you're going to have to expect him to go in against a surging Stallions defense and play his best football of the year. I don't know.
And not to mention a little Chase Garbers action going on. He's probably got NFL jobs lined up. So
waiting for the
you think
UFL
he's going to
daily
go
tweet
out
on
there
that
and
one.
like die for this team? Not saying he wouldn't, but like I wouldn't put my health on the line for that. I mean,
Well, you already saw he was too scared to play against the Roughnecks. So
exactly.
Yeah, you see every team except Birmingham, because Jamar was at Dunkin' Donuts. They're going to be playing. No, you take it. No, you take it, because everyone's going to be Chase Garbage, except because Jamar's like, I'm back. I know what I got. I'm playing for fun now. No, in a serious note, I'm going to flip this over. Look, I'm hoping this rest was worth the damn for Bryce Perkins. I know that there's a lot of talk about that ankle was maybe more hurt than it was expected to be. He's been playing it. He's been doing limited practice capacity for a few weeks now. They're going to need right off the bat a non-rusty best version of Bryce. And that's saying something, given that last time we did see Bryce play this team, you know, even if it was split reps, it wasn't very consistent, you know, and I think that we can't put out, and I agree exactly with James here, we cannot put out to pasture that Birmingham's defense, you know, is adding pieces, but that defense has played pretty well all year. Really, the only inconsistency has been who's at QB and what kind of offense are we running while we're trying to kind of flip between, and I quote, between 4 different quarterbacks here. Like four QBs that have been priority starters this season have, and I know that we can talk others, but like still, of the main 4, you know, we're jumping between injury to partial injury to now Jamar being the hottest of the 4 and the best looking he's been all year. Even in a loss to St. Louis, he still was looking crisp. There's been no game that he's had that off game that we have known from 2022. He's just been locked in. He looks like he is a really good grasp of what Skip wants right off the bat. I mean, that can't be
outside of
understated.
the fact that Skip will bark at him for missing one little screen here and one little out there, but yes.
Yeah, and yes.
But-
And you know what? Jamar seems to always handle that the best out of all of them. Even Alex, who's gotten better with this, I still felt like even this year he was like, oh, God, this again, you know. But it's amazing what they're doing right now. And I also worry about Michigan's pass defense personally, because they tend to give up, and this is something Jamar's done well, they tend to give up the splash plays on a much irregular basis. It's like the one big crux that Michigan has besides injury. Splash plays are a consistent problem every week for them. they don't really make you work down the field. Every one drive a game minimum, you're going to give up a 20-plus yarder or something that flips the field. That worries me.
The one thing I wanted to point out about Bryce Perkins is he could have played this week. It was Bryce's decision to not play because the Panthers originally were going to put him out there for a drive or two, and he opted not to go out. That was
I would too if I had to go against the Roughnecks.
Chase Garbers.
No.
So, I guess we'll have to see if Bryce's decision there is the right one. But I don't know. I mean, I feel like could have gone out there for at least a drive, just get a couple reps in, throw a couple passes, hand off a couple of balls at game speed. But we'll see how it all shakes out. But
I think part of this also signifies that, and coaches know this already, but like I think that's a clear communication of Mike Nolan and crew going, yeah, we know Birmingham has had our number since I've been around and since we played them, since the team's return. It really feels like there's a ton of pressure to perform, with this being arguably the best Panthers team since the revival that could go all the way, and it feels like all those chips are being pushed into that basket. Like last week with, Rocky Lombardi was partially for development, but like the fact that Perkins didn't hit the field, and I also was like, yeah, he probably is healthy enough to hit the field after a few weeks off. I think that signifies a lot. There's just a ton of, I think, chips on saying we got to get this monkey off our back that is the Birmingham Stallions if we're going to be taking this to the next level. For a season that's been a wild success on every level of on-field and off-field and kind of performance with that team, that's what it feels like right now.
no, I'm with you on that end. But like you said, this feels like this should be the year where they have the pieces to put it together. But if those pieces actually aren't out on the field consistently, then they're not going to be able to put them together. Now, something else that I think is interesting, we talk about Bryce Perkins not being on the field. Max Duggan didn't play this week, which, makes sense. You want to rest him. But he hasn't played DC this year. Manny Wilkins was a starter back in week 3. So I'm really curious to see how he performs against the Defenders team that he has not played against yet in this season. So we'll see how that shakes out in the playoffs. And DC's defense, I have them at number 4 on my power rankings because of this defensive fly. There was a graphic put up on Fox. It was either this week or the week prior of their defense just kind of falling off. And you look at the numbers under Greg Williams and then look at the numbers under Blake the last several weeks, and they have not been great. They're giving up a lot of yards per game. They're giving up a lot of points. And yes, they're still getting pressure on the quarterback. And yes, they're still making some plays in the secondary, but they're giving up a lot. And this St. Louis offense is one of the best in the league, especially at running the football. And if Max Duggan's in a groove with his legs and feeling comfortable throwing the ball like he was a couple weeks ago against San Antonio, DC's in trouble. DC's in serious trouble because we can't forget they've lost 2 in a row as well. St. Louis has won 6 straight heading into the playoffs. I feel like I don't know if we talk about St. Louis enough or Anthony Becht, but it's Stuckey. I'm sure he's going to have something to say about that. But they're 8-2. They're best record in the league this year. Franchise record for St. Louis. Anthony Becht as a head coach is during the regular season 21-8. So that's a pretty impressive. 22-8. Excuse me, 22-8. So pretty impressive stuff from his staff this year as they win the XFL conference again.
Yeah, and it's another one of these teams where I think going into the season there was a lot of questions with the change in quarterback, and then you had injury at quarterback, and they kept coasting. I think, once you saw Manny Wilkins go out, there was a lot of people, myself included, I'm not going to lie, that wrote this team off a little bit. And you know what? I can't take it away from them. They did get, I will call it out, assisted in a few instances. 1, they got an extra home game. 2, the Super Challenge was not applied the same across the board, but they did earn it. They are in the playoffs. They do have the best record. And my man Jace, how you doing?
Fantastic. Good to see you, everybody.
Hell yeah. How you feeling this week? Big week ahead?
Is it?
Yeah. Just another day. Just another day at the office, right?
Game.
No, I thought you said, honest to God, I thought you said weekend, this past weekend. I didn't hear you say week.
He said week ahead.
Oh yeah. No, I thought you said big weekend, like last weekend. I was like, dude, I don't know.
Yeah.
The hotel we stayed at in Memphis was, whew. That didn't go sightseeing for sure. I didn't take that walk around the hotel and just enjoy the sights. That's for sure.
Zach and I have one of those
Did you say at
moments.
Memphis Marriott East or West?
Oh, brother, we were at the Crown Plaza.
Oh, nice.
They need some interior updates. It's all right. Godspeed.
Did you at least have the fence around the hotel where you had to use the cart? Yeah, sign you up.
Chain link, but it was
Yeah,
there.
there you go.
It was there.
Jace, what do you got as background today?
I'm at the pool hall shooting some pool.
Nice.
Love it.
I'm actually about to go throw some darts.
Hell yeah. So is this the big preparation for the playoffs this weekend? Got to get the pool in, got to get the darts. If that's not it, then what else you got planned?
Dude, you got to get down and dirty in the playoffs. So I was like, what better way to go to some local bar just full of where I'm the youngest person there, and it's nothing but bikers and cigarettes. And I meant darts, but I'm actually smoking cigarettes. That's what I meant, darts. That's the darts one.
Get your lungs ready for the next weekend.
I can't wait to clip this
Exactly.
and send it to Skip in the DM.
Exactly.
You're throwing lit
Well, no, we're
cigarettes around
about
the
to have
bar. What's wrong
UFL
with you?
Daily with making some Google VO AI clip of Jace
Exactly.
Sternberger smoking some.
This is the one time Moose watches this podcast.
Yeah, and he's just like,
Jace is getting fined.
I haven't got fined all year, and it's going to be like, I'm going to have a huge fine just for whatever you were saying on that podcast.
Oh my gosh.
How's it been going? I usually listen to your guys' show, but I was preoccupied because James didn't send me the link, so I thought you guys canceled on me.
I think he did it on purpose. You should have heard all the pro Panther stuff he was saying before you jumped on. Not one lick of.
He's trying to psych me out, and I think it's ironic that Jake's not on the show this week. Ironically.
Isn't that funny? Zach? I'll give him credit. He's the only. Usually we have too many Panthers fan. This week, all of a sudden, it's just we got one.
Zach is a Panthers fan, but he's like I said, I can at least talk to him because he's realistic, and it's like it is what it is. At the end of the day, we're all fans of our teams, but it's like, hey, at the end of the day, it is what it is. Panthers or not, or whatever sports team it is, that's how I think you should be. You should be able to discuss your team and not be biased or not be ridiculously biased. You can be a little biased.
I took my advice for that from being a Bears fan the last many a year of my life, where if you go look, and partially I want to thank the Twitter Bears community out there for being so delusional that I have to be the antithesis of the opposite side of the discussion, because delusions run very wild in the NFL with fan bases. Just something maybe you don't know until you really dive into the weeds and talk with communities. Everyone's a winner at the end of the day. None of them do anything wrong. You can always spin a story.
Yep.
In the NFL, there's always a top dog. There's always a top thing we're doing right. Nothing's wrong. So, disperse. But look, I'll be frank. I just said before he came on, definitely feels like Mike and company are pushing all those chips into the basket of finally beating you guys for once. With Bryce sitting out and everything, really feels like that is the sole end goal ever since they know where they're playing. Is we're playing it safe, load all of the chips, all the ammunition into one big beautiful basket. Yeah, whatever, political thing or not, and then just go in and see what you got. Meanwhile, I got J.M.R. Smith playing his best ball of his career.
That's what I'm saying.
Jesus Christ.
Basically, like you said, put everything in one basket, and then we're just gonna flip a switch and erase the 2 losses the past 2 weeks and all the points we've given up, and just like that, beat the Stallions, going to the UFL championship.
That certainly feels it.
Shit, that's what I'm saying. Trust me, we've been thinking the same thing. It's like we know that Michigan's been resting players, and they're going to be fresh and come out ready against us. And like I said, we can say we haven't put all of our eggs in one basket, but I think anytime you're in whenever you consider yourself a playoff team and you try your best not to look ahead, and you got to do the whole, you got to say what you want, you got to say what you politically correct. It's our biggest game is whoever we play this week, and that's the most important game. But at the end of the day, I'm not gonna say everybody ref, because I do respect the Roughnecks, but we've all been in our minds. We know we got to beat Michigan to go to the championship, and so we're putting all of.
Yeah.
Daryl Johnson just muted him.
Shut him up! Shut him the hell up!
That's it.
He's talking too much.
Jesus, I freaking got a phone. Got a phone.
Oh my God, he did it happen again.
Hey,
What happened again?
Where's Russ? Russ Brandon just brought in the sniper rifle. Did y'all see the red dot on his head right before he jumped out?
We're sitting here joking, and it is real.
We're gonna wake up and see the
Now
news tomorrow.
Now, how will we ever get to ask him about his sideline interview this past
I know.
week?
Oh, man.
After that, he's on the list. The same people that are bookmarking your tweets, Ducky, are watching him. Oh, they got Ducky too. Are you muted now?
Yeah. People don't understand. They're out to get me. I can see them.
There we
Dude,
go.
sorry, I lost service.
Did you-
It started raining in the background. It cut my Wi-Fi out.
We were asking if you dodged the bullet.
Yeah, no shit. That's what I'm like. I'm talking too much. I'm making too much sense going on right now.
Oh man.
How was your sideline interview,
But
dude?
yeah,
You
I
seem
kept
very
getting
jazzed
spam
for that.
calls. I was so irritated and so freaking frustrated about that.
Oh, really?
I did not want to be doing that at all. But Devin's my guy. Can you guys hear me, or am I just yapping?
We can hear you
we're
now.
good
Yeah.
now.
My service is shit. Yeah. Devin was like, hey, let's do this sideline interview about this play. And I'm just like, sure, let's do it. Yeah, I was more so annoyed because everybody was telling me what I should have done. I'm like, yeah, it sounds good until you're out there. But it was a sensitive fine on me. I was just irritated because I should have scored. And all I could think about was getting shitted on in the Discord for not scoring. But luckily no one said it because everybody was like, see, that's a whole other spill y'all are going to get me talking about. But a lot of people were like, oh, that was a big catch by Jace. But most people who know me know I should have scored that play, but I didn't. So I didn't live up to my standard. But some people, that's their best career
Is
year.
that why
and
we
they
didn't get a
all
PFN
you-
shout out during the interview? You're worried about what we're gonna say?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. I'm glad you cut me off. I'm not going to say what I was going to say.
No, well, I mean, speaking of touchdowns left off the board, Andrew Peasley definitely could have hit you for one, and apparently 2 touchdowns. But he's still
Quarterbacks,
figuring
man,
it out.
you can get I can get fake mad all I want, man. There's no way I could play quarterback. They have to make so many decisions every play, and trust me, I'm not the only receiver who was open that was been missed, and I'm not going to be the only receiver that's ever missed again. Like every receiver says they're open every play. So at the end of the day, like the quarterbacks, I got all the respect for them. They should give 2 shits what I got to say about getting the ball and whatnot. Like, trust me, I know Skip. I know the coaches are. The offensive coordinator for any team is just as hard as. Like I said, I don't want the quarterback's job, so I'm good with what I got going on.
It takes time. I mean, I thought Peasley overall looked pretty good. You know, getting some action again. 'Cause we saw him back in what was it, week 6 or week 7, and then he got hurt, and I think it was week 6 against the Browns. Wasn't able to get out there for a few weeks, so it's good to see him get some action. Obviously, pretty lopsided game against the Showboats this week. 46-9 sent them out in fashion. You've been
Didn't someone write about don't be surprised if this one comes down to the wires again in their PFN article?
Interesting.
I don't know. I just support anything PFN. I always look in and read. It's just something I read.
Oh, thank God I don't write the recaps.
Can we pull up this article really quick? Hang on.
Can we?
Keep talking. I'm about to pull this up.
You trying to beat the charges?
I'm just a fan. I was just reading. I'm like, well, hey, this would be a good game. And then I saw it was 46-9. I'm like, oh, well, that was a miss.
Oh, let's find this article.
Hang on. I'm sending it right now in the group chat. There we go. It's at the bottom. Look, I'm gonna defend myself in the sense that Memphis beat you guys in week 5, and I was expecting Birmingham to kind of hold back a couple of things this week. So I figured it'd be a game where, probably would have been competitive until the fourth quarter. But I was wrong. It's all the way at the bottom, ref. Like,
just because your team did that doesn't mean we're going to do that, you know?
Double checking this.
This is a long article, James.
they always are. My previews are
Hey,
the
and
most
it's a lot of
in-depth
it's
previews of
downplayed.
anybody.
Hey.
Don't underestimate
ChatGPT, it's the bomb.
A lot of it's downplaying Birmingham, too, in that state. A lot of it's saying,
Considering
Michigan had to deal with all the adversity. They had to.
Oh,
They had
please.
nothing to play for.
Well, I got.
This was Birmingham's Super Bowl revenge game.
Yeah, what was that?
Well, I'm glad to see that you read the articles.
I had some faith in Dresser win. I really thought that he was going to do better as a starter again this week.
As you should, James. As you should.
As you should.
I picked Birmingham. Look at my pick'ems. I picked Birmingham to win. I knew they wouldn't lose twice to Memphis in one season. At the same time, I figured the Triplex would be somewhat
One thing
competitive.
I've learned about you, James, just because you put something, I don't care what you say online. I only care about what you say on the Discord. That's your true character, all right?
Switzerland.
Just like I have to say politically correct things, you have to politically post correct things sometimes, you know?
Man.
But when I see Switzerland, that's when my antennas perk up. You can't see it because my filter's cropping, but I got antennas on my head right now. I'm holding my hands over my head.
Oh, man. Well, I'll say this. I know, Jace, you probably got like 3 or 4 guys. I know from my comments on Twitter, I do have the best thoughts about Birmingham, but anytime I have a thought, I'm like, okay, I can't say this because I know it's going to get back to you first, and I'm going to have to deal with that every Monday. 2, I got, the usual suspects in my chat all the time, but I will say this is the truth. I will never bet against the Stallions. I don't know, Zachy boy. I'd be worried if I were you this weekend, but Panthers do look good. Although they did get beat by my rowdy and rascally Roughnecks this past week, but
he never bets against the Stallions.
I don't think I've ever
Nothing
picked
matters.
them.
Never
Other than
until
Memphis.
playoffs. Yeah, fair. Like I said, at the end of the day, it's all fun and games, but we all know nothing matters. Like anything can happen on Sunday, and that's when it all matters. So trust me, I would if it required that we lost to Michigan twice in the regular season to beat them in the playoffs, I would trade that to guarantee a win. I would trade that in a heartbeat. So that's all I'm looking at is like we could all be just as happy, but if they beat us Sunday, none of this mattered anyway, and they get the last laugh. So that's all I'm thinking about it.
He's saying all fun and games, but I just bet my life savings on Memphis winning.
I didn't say fade us. I just said it could go both ways.
My fortune's dead. What do I do? I'm gonna find you.
Jace, I gotta ask. Big play Tay this week. 2 pick sixes.
Hey.
That's, I think the first time we've ever seen that in pro football from a linebacker.
I stand true to what I said earlier in the when we were chatting up in the Discord. Everybody should tap into the Discord. Free plug, free shout out.
Ref's gonna clip that so fast.
I genuinely I think that because our team this is no knock against any other team in the league. I think that Paul, our new GM, Zach Potter, our former GM, the roster and Coach Holtz that they've built with the depth this year. I mean, shit, tight end alone. Like I love our tight end room. I put our tight end room with anybody in the league. 3 minutes, like all 3. We go spot for spot. But I think this team has so much depth that we have rotated so much this year, and where I feel like a lot of Birmingham guys got the short end of the stick on the All-UFFL, or even if they didn't get it, the recognition, just because, I mean, shoot, you got guys who, for some teams, they play every series on defense, where our linebackers are rotating every 5-6 plays. It's like they're studs. I mean, like, you can't there's not a world where Tizino doesn't play in the game, Tay Crowder, Deuce, like all 4 of those guys have to play. Well, they can't all play at once. So it's like you got to rotate, and it's like, I mean, I'll match Ducky's bet on his house with if Tizino played for Memphis Showboats, that Tez leads the league in tackles this year, and he has an All-Pro league. And this is not a knock against Moody. I personally voted for Moody. He was my linebacker one this year for Houston. He was the most efficient on special teams. You couldn't block him on kickoff. Made plays on defense. He was my linebacker one, opposed from Birmingham linebackers because I'm biased. But I mean, I think that I don't think it was not fair because at the end of the day, there's only so much weight that carries. But I did think that that plays a role whenever guys are rotating. Just like our offensive guys, we rotate every other drive, and even Dion, who's leading the league, granted he's producing off deep balls, but I mean, there's a lot of times where people be on the sideline, and me and Dion are standing right beside each other. You know, and it's like a big part of the game. It's like we're deep at every position, and we trust everybody who can play, and so sometimes that just happens. And so but yeah, back to Tay. I think Tay has been an awesome signing for us. He's been huge for us. Great locker room guy. Obviously knows what he's doing out there on the field. Very aware, and yeah, I'm ready to see what happens this week.
Nice. Very nice.
I mean, speaking of this week, it's playoffs. It's time to prepare. What's the vibe so far this week?
It's no vibes, man. It's beat Michigan. That's what we got to do. They're saying the same thing, but it's like Coach Nolan, they're going to run the same offense, same defense that they've been running since he's been here. We're going to run the same offense that Skip's been running. I know, like, man, put whoever you want at quarterback, that we're going to run the same stuff. They're going to run the same stuff. Like, it's going to be who goes out there and makes more plays, who's going to be the big dog, who's going to set the tone early, and who's going to do what they do. That's what it's going to come down to at the end of the day. Nothing else matters. We can talk about it, hype it up, and this will be Memphis' first time beating Birmingham. This will be whatever it is. Like, we just got to beat Michigan. We just got to beat Michigan.
No, I mean, I know it's technically not a rivalry since you've beaten them 7 times since they've come back, but this is your 8th meeting through, 3 or 4 seasons. At this point, you guys know each other inside and out. Like, there's not a whole lot more that you guys can really bring out. Sure, you might have a trick or two up your sleeve, but there's not going to be a lot of new wrinkles that you haven't seen before.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's what I was trying to say. They're sound fundamentally. We know what they're going to do. They know what we're going to do. It's just going to be who can execute it more, who doesn't turn the ball over, and makes the least mistakes. And if we can play as half as Jesus, what am I trying to say? If we can play half as good as we have the past 2 weeks on third downs, I like our chances.
That's been, like James brought up earlier, super efficient. It's
absurd.
That's one thing. Like, it's so hard to get stops anyway in any level, but that's such a crucial stat that I think sometimes doesn't get talked enough. Is the efficiency there, and it's only tuned up, and he's gone. He got bored of me.
He's like, Mr. Digits, get out of here.
And no more numbers.
Guys, I think I got to call it here for me, though.
I was going to say, it's probably about time for us to wrap it up anyway, but I'll give a couple of reminders. Subscribe, click the bell. It builds morale. It lets you know when we drop new videos, when we go live, like we are now every Monday at 6 p.m. It's also going to let you know when Summer Stock, the road to the UFL championship, goes live. Look for it probably late Sunday prior to the championship game. Could be midnight in the lead up. Either way, you're going to see it before the championship game. Tune in. Even if you watch it after the championship game, there's going to be plenty in there that is just not, just watch it. Watch it. Buy a shirt too, because Zach and I are spending a whole lot of money on this bad boy of a trip. So every 3 cents of that Teespring shirt that they give us counts, baby. So sign us up. Points though. Hold on. I almost forgot us some points. Let's get some points.
I think I owe James some.
Oh shit.
Oh
No.
That is true. Hold on. Let me pull up the points here. So you're right. So let's just go over that real quick. We had a bet earlier in the season. 69 points if 2 games went over to a milli on Friday nights between James and Ducky. Ducky unfortunately lost that. So that takes you. So I'm going to do this pre-adding the
0
points.
games, by the way.
Yeah.
Which, is not good, and I'm actually not happy about that. But I got 69 extra points, so there's there's a silver lining.
Silver lining.
So you had 190 points. That brings you to 121. James, you had 168 points. So let's see, 168 plus
go.
68. Oh, plus 1. There we go. Boom. Oh, God. All right. Well, 168 plus 69. 237. Oh, fuck.
Oh, wow.
I don't think anybody's coming back from that. Well, actually, hold on. Okay. Well, we'll work accordingly here. Let's just go down the list then. So me, I'm going to give myself, so I'm at 129. I had 500% better on my team, but I'm not going to give myself 500 points. That would be mean. But I am going to give myself a good 12. Why, you might say? Because next year we're going 12-0. So that brings me to 141. All right. So James, you're ahead of the pack. But you know what? We can't be mad at you. You made the bets fair and square. You could have easily lost these points. I'm going to give you, I'll say 15 points. 247, 252. Okay. Ducky, you know what? Just because you lost 69 points.
I get 69 back.
I will give you.
The ref giveth and he taketh away.
Yeah, wouldn't that? Man, I'm half tempted. Hold on, what would that put?
Oh no.
No, but I will give you.
I'm leaving PFN.
You know what?
I'm taking my talents to UFL Daily. Where's that Kevin Durant meme?
Yeah.
When he goes to Golden State. My next chapter, UFL Daily.
So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to give you 10 points for each of those million that you didn't get. So that's 20 points. That brings you up to 141. Okay. Zachy boy, man, we're going on the journey of our lifetime here. And I feel a little bit bad. You took a shellacking from the future champion Houston Roughnecks. Not this year, but next year, of course. But you do have an opportunity to win a championship of your own.
Can I refuse pity points just to spite you?
Okay, I'm going to take away 69 points. Give them to Ducky. You know what, though? I'm going to give you 15 points because I like round numbers and it makes math easy. So that brings you to 140 on the season. Thorne couldn't make it. Jake, you know what? I'm going to deduct a point from him just for not making it, just to bring him to an easy 100. Jace?
You didn't drop that one.
Jace, I mean... What the hell? He jumps on. It's always entertaining. I'm going to give him 11 points for that. That brings him to an easy 500. Yeah, we're getting close, but I think that's it, folks.
That many season prize is going to be legendary, folks.
Yeah. Well, you're not a winner yet, James. We still have a week, and who knows? Who knows what kind of splash is going to be made in between now and
Maybe
then.
I'll make a bet on Michigan winning it all, and I'm going to bet the house and put in all my chips because
Would you like that? Would you like that?
Strong Michigan Panthers fan, obviously, even though I'm quite literally wearing.
Clip.
Ooh.
Clip.
Ooh, okay. You know what, though? Who wants to do some wagers here? Because we could beat James
and to
with
think
some
Jace
wagers.
didn't come back to see the T-shirt.
All right, Ducky.
I know.
What a shame.
All right, I'm going to think about some wagers because we have a week before this championship kicks off. Wait, yes, we do. Okay, all right. I might make some plays on this.
He's about to bet the house on the Roughnecks.
You know what? Hey.
All in.
I got a great idea.
Genji Bar.
The superstar. Genji
Mark
Bar.
Thompson. Let's go.
I have a great idea.
Mark Thompson was fading the Roughnecks all year on the betting lines. Y'all see his tweets?
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah.
No.
Oh, man. That was funny to watch.
What if each one of us bets on one of the 4 teams remaining? We got 4 of us here. It's very plausible. I'll grab one. I don't care. I'll take the one that's the least desirable.
Michigan?
Panthers?
Oh, funny. And places it on the T-ball bat. And
You know what? I'll do it. All in on Birmingham.
That's my bet anyways.
that's all your points on
All
Birmingham?
my points. Ducky,
All right.
you in on that too? So Ducky and I, we're putting it all on the line here. Hold on. So let's see. I'm going to put
Well,
a note
I'm,
here.
I'm talking like championship winner overall. So I'm going
Me
to put
too.
all my. All right, I'm putting all my points since I am the lone Michigan fan on here, in terms of like repping it. I will put all my points on Michigan. I will go with that.
And then James, I'll be Switzerland, but I'll also pick Michigan.
But also pick.
Ay.
James, you don't have to bet. You're
On top of
sitting
all my
pretty.
points, I'll put in my signed Bryce Perkins jockstrap.
I can't believe Jace is missing this right now.
Well, on that note, I think that's it, folks. Do all the things I mentioned before. Like, subscribe, click the bell, morale, blah, 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 blah. You saw the point. Until next time, sign you up. I don't know what team sucks this week. What team sucks this week?
San Antonio.
There we go. San Antonio,
Yeah,
you guys suck.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, I don't want to. I got to hit the right
Click
button.
away.
Get out of here.